Hi everyone, it's Lindsay and I'm here today with a tutorial on masking out patterns. So I am starting off with this Scalloped Rectangle die. I just cut this from white cardstock. Now from just regular computer paper, typing paper, I cut out a circle die, just a regular circle right in the middle of it. Now I'm going to use this as my mask. Now normally I would use a piece of Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo masking paper. However, I found that whenever I just needed it for like a circle or a rectangle mask, I used up a whole sheet and I found that very wasteful. So what I did this time is I just cut this out from regular typing paper and then I'll just use some masking tape to hold this right in place. Now there is a plus side to using your computer paper as your mask. I could see through this to my rectangle die beneath it, so I could get perfect placement with this. With my masking paper, I had to do a little bit of guesswork just to make sure that I had it centered right. And on this, I'm having it offset just a little bit on the right hand side and also on the bottom. So it allowed me to really get my placement perfect to be able to see beneath that. So for my pattern, I'm going to be doing some plaid stamping and I am using the Inspired by Stamping Background Basics. This is the line builder set and it is a great set to use for your plaid stamping, stripe stamping, just pattern stamping in general. It's really one of my must-have sets. I use it a lot and you can see on the left-hand side, it is a well-loved set. But for my stamping, I'm going to be using two different Memento die inks here, but three of the lines from the stamp set. So I'm using some Angel Pink, which is a very light pink ink, and I'm also going to be using some London Fog, which is a gray ink. So I went ahead and I started off with the Angel Pink and the medium solid line stamp from that stamp set. And I am doing this a little bit offset on my circle. I don't want it exactly centered in that circle because to me that looks a little bit too fake, too put together. So I like it offset a little bit. So I went ahead and first stamped two lines in the Angel Pink ink, and then on both sides of both of those lines I'm going to go ahead and use the very thinnest solid line from the stamp set and the London Fog ink, and I'll go ahead and stamp that on both sides of both lines. Now I am moving on and I am using the thinnest four-line stamp set, or the four-line stamp from the stamp set, and I'm inking this up with that Angel Pink ink. Now I wanted to incorporate three of the stamps, however I didn't want to add in a third color. So I just switched back to my Angel Pink ink and I found that I really like this pattern. So I'm going to stamp that four-line stamp on both sides of those gray lines, or one side on the right side and then on the left of the other side here. Now at this point I have run out of room on the right hand side of that gray stamp, and I've also run out of room on the left hand side of that other stamp on the bottom. So now I'm only going to be stamping on the top two of these lines. So I've switched back to that very thin gray line here, and I'm going to stamp that right on the right hand side of the right top four-line set, and then of course I'll go ahead and stamp it on the left hand side of the top four-line set. It's much easier to see in the video than me explaining. So now I've switched back to the stamp I started with, which is the medium solid line and the Angel Pink ink, and I will go ahead and stamp that on the gray, on the opposite sides of the gray lines that I went ahead and stamped just a moment ago. Now I just had to move back to my gray line stamp, and that will finish off the plaid stamping. But you do want to make sure, even if it's just a smidgen that's going to be included in there, you do want to make sure you go ahead and stamp that. But once I remove this typing paper, computer paper mask, you can see it is a perfectly masked circle, and it's also placed very well because I could see through that paper. Now I went ahead and I did hit this with my heat tool just a little bit to make sure that heat was, or that ink was nice and dry, but I'm also going to go over it with my embossing bag because I will be heat embossing my sentiment. I'll be using the Bless stamp set. This was brand new in January from Inspired by Stamping, and I have built up a sentiment, and it reads, "I am truly blessed to know you." There are a lot of different ways you can customize these sentiment builders from Inspired by Stamping, and that's one of the reasons I really love them, because I can use it for a sympathy card, I can use it for a birthday card. It's just whatever you need a card for, you can build up a sentiment to fit that card type. So I went ahead and stamped that down with some Versamark ink, and I am using my Misty here just to get nice placement on this circle. Now I went ahead and sprinkled on some silver embossing powder and heat set that so it matched the gray ink, and that really finished off that stamping for this card. I wanted to add a few embellishments to it, however. So I have this really old punch. I've had it since I started stamping 8-9 years ago, and it's just a 2-line punch. So I'm going to punch that right on the top of that circle, and this allows me to thread some ribbon right into that circle and tie a little bow on top of it. Now you could always tie a bow and use some glue to hold it in place. However, I find if I mail them, sometimes my bows will come undone when they're like that. So I just like to tie this on to my actual card. So you can see I just slipped both ends of my ribbon right through those punched holes that it made, and I'm going to tie a bow. Now on one side of my bow, I'm going to add some flowers. These also were released in January. And I have a pink one here, and I'm just using some hot glue to hold that down, and I'm following the curve of that circle that I made. Then I'll go ahead and use a little white one, and I'm going to tuck it right above that pink one, again following the curve of the circle. Now I don't add a lot of embellishments to my card. However, when I do, I like to keep the rest of the card very simple. Now I wanted to go ahead and pop up this scalloped circle or scalloped rectangle just to give it a little something extra, and I am using some very thick fun foam. You could see the difference between the fun foam I get at the craft store and this I order from Hallmark Scrapbook and Crafts website. I always link with them over on my blog. But I like to use this fun foam when I need a little something extra. So on this overly simple card, I want to add a little bit more depth to this rectangle and really pop it up away from this A2 top folding white card base. Give a little shadow behind that and really offset the white on white color theme here. Once I had that adhered down though, that finished off today's card. I hope you guys enjoyed this video tutorial, and as always, I will leave you with just a few pictures of the finished card. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog. I will leave that link in the description box below. Thank you guys for watching today, and happy crafting.